Look, I was going to leave her alone, but then I saw her last two posts and they're being shared everywhere and they're full of misinformation and lies. The posts read, a reminder of how Labor's Uluru Statement from the Heart was manufactured as a PR campaign for the Voice and activists to push treaty and Makarara. I'll get to the Uluru Statement soon, but treaty's not a Labor thing, that's a mob thing. Makarara's not a Labor thing, that's a mob thing too. She's lying again. It actually shows how desperate that she is, that the only time that she can remain relevant and get the likes and shares and whatever else is when she's beaten down on mob. The referendum is still very raw to many of us, and really, can't you just leave us alone? In the post, she attaches a video of an old fella, a Murujulu elder, who shares his views on the Uluru Statement. Now, I was going to play the video of old uncle, the Murujulu uncle speaking, but I don't have his permission and I don't know him personally. And to find out after that Advance had something to do with putting it all together makes me really uncomfortable, so I'm not going to play it, but I'll just recap. So the video itself was taken from an article around 2 years ago that the Australian had ran, and it was a little escapade of Senator Kerry-Ann Little, who went out there and spoke to some Murujulu people who weren't happy with the Uluru Statement and who were anti-Uluru Statement and anti-voice. So they put this all together. And she doesn't care that it's actually been debunked before by other Murujulu people and other First Nations people. She doesn't care that she puts uncle out there. Her behaviour is really, really gross. But what we do know now is that, you know, that Advance group, you know, the one that send the mass emails out on Anzac Day inciting violence, they also sent mass emails out using uncle and saying things like, if you vote yes, Aboriginal people can come take your land. If you vote yes, the UN is going to come in and take Australia. If you vote yes, Aboriginal people will get away with not paying taxes. It's already been debunked, but I'm going to do a quick recap. But I will say that signatories of the Uluru Statement have debunked it. The Murujulu aunties who painted the canvas have debunked it, and so have traditional owners. And the people that she claims, the people from the bush and remote communities, have also debunked it because they supported the Uluru Statement and they voted yes. But anyway, here's a really, really quick recap of the consultation process. There was 13 dialogues across the country. They did request 30, but they were heavily rejected. So many mob participated in the consultation process, from Palawa to North Queensland to Nunga country to Noongar country. There were many mob. At those consultations, mob were then elected to go out to Uluru to the first convention on constitutional recognition. Out of Uluru, mob sat. They discussed the different forms of recognition, and that's where the Uluru Statement was first came about, and the call for voice, treaty, truth. Mob then put their signatures to the canvas, and the canvas was given to the Murujulu aunties who painted it. And that's where the Uluru Statement come about. It's not hidden squirrel business. You can actually Google it and you'll see people putting their names to the canvas, and then you see aunties actually painting the canvas. Now, were all mob consulted on this process? No, that's not a hidden fact. All our mob weren't consulted. That would be really hard, but I will say this. I was not consulted on the Royal Commission into Aboriginal Deaths in Custody, nor was I consulted on the Bringing Them Home report, nor was I a part of the 67 referendum. But we as Aboriginal Torres Strait Island people, we honour all our old people and anyone who's participated in those processes. We have many aunties and uncles in our communities who have participated in many processes, many inquests and many inquiries, and that have had reports come out that have shed light on the darkest times in our communities. Many of those aunties and uncles are no longer with us, and we honour them because culturally that's what we do in our communities. We always honour those who have passed, and like the signatories of the Uluru Statement, some of those signatories have passed, and we will continue to be respectful and honour those people as well. I mean, some of our mob may not have agreed during the voice, but one thing is for sure, Jacinta What's-Her-Face has brought all our mob together, because as a collective from across this great country, all of our mob Aboriginal Torres Strait Island people agree wholeheartedly that we don't want her speaking for us. The post actually shines a light on how misinformed and uneducated she is, and also how she continues to try and create cultural division amongst our own people. And she does this because the only time that she's relevant, the only time that she gets shares and likes is when she's beaten down on our mob. But back to her post, she actually calls it Labor's Uluru Statement from the Heart. Now I'm going to school you, sister, because you know how you jump ship from the Nationals to the Liberals? You probably should have done some research, because the Uluru Statement from the Heart came out under a Liberal government, under a Turnbull government. Remember the Nationals? Now you're a proud Liberal. The Uluru Statement was done under a Liberal government. You probably should have checked that out first. I saw on Jacinta What's-Her-Face's post that she tagged some people, Senator Kerry and Little, Warren Mundine, and Madison King. Now, I don't know anything about this Madison King. I did a little bit of research. She ran in the last election. She lost badly. Now she's saying that everyone cheated, including the AEC, and that she's going to do some explosive podcast where basically she's just running down her own mob. She's mob, right? Yeah. So she's going to be running us down. But don't worry, my people. Like, there's always going to be a junior Jacinta Price somewhere running us down. And you've got to remember, the only people that they appeal to are the racists of Australia. That's all they've got. The only time that they make themselves relevant is when they're running us mob down. But always keep in mind that the election actually said something else. It said that Australians don't want culture wars. So sisters, read the room. It's not welcome here in this country. So go along with yourselves. The second post of Jacinta What's-Her-Face was about an article that ran in the Australian News yesterday about herself. Basically, the article wasn't that explosive. It was more of the regurgitated stuff. She won The Voice. She hates mob, blah, 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 blah. Mob are to blame, blah, blah, blah. But she did comment on nuclear, which kind of surprised me, because I don't think the Liberal Party have come out on their stance on what nuclear is. And clearly, nuclear played a part in them losing the election. Now, I don't know if she has any qualifications in this area. I mean, I wouldn't talk on nuclear. I haven't got a degree in science or anything like that, but if she has, can someone let me know? But that was basically it. Anyway, one would have thought after the whole deputy leadership debacle that her first post back would have been about her education and what she stands for and what her policies are, but it's not. It's beaten down on us mob. So I think as a collective, Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people speak really clearly when we say they actually, people like her and Madison Thingy misrepresent mob. They don't speak for us. They actually speak against us. That's really clear. And their only audiences are the racist Australians. Anyway, I'm going to end this video off with Uncle Sammy Wilson, who's a Mutijulu man. And I do have his permission and I do know him. And it's him speaking about the Uluru Statement from the Heart.
Uluru Statement. We always think about 3 years ago with that. We were, but I think it's 250 years ago. That you know, 1960, I think, to recognize more Judah. Kalau wang kadang cungong lala, wanga penyemaju ni, what we call it, voice to the government, the